All right, welcome everybody. Everybody here, I think, has been with us before, right? So
Yes.
far,
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get a few more people in, but I will start us off on time. Today we're going to make lemon rice soup, and the trial that I made, I really enjoyed this one. It's nice and fresh, even though it's a wintry kind of soup with the typical winter veggies. The lemon gives it a really nice freshness to it. So does anybody have any questions? I know sometimes at the beginning of a recipe, I've got a burning question about one of the ingredients or something. Everybody good? All right, well, if that's the case, we'll just start us off. I do like to mention at the beginning of each session that we've put some new health and safety guidelines up on the website. So just be sure, if you haven't taken a look at those yet, just look at those, and they're real common sense things, long hair tied back if you need to do that kind of thing, and just pretty much basic cleanliness things that you would do in your own kitchen. But please check those out if you haven't already. And with that, we'll get it started. First thing to do in this one, just like most of our soups, is browning the onions. So I'm going to start. Probably should have started my stove, but I'm going to do that now. And wait for this to warm up. And it takes a half a cup of olive oil or cooking oil, whatever you want to use. Sometimes I use the food processor with all this prep, but today I had the time, so I just kind of did some Zen chopping in the kitchen. It seems like a lot, but it goes quickly. So.
I don't know how you all are feeling, but with all that's going on in the world, I am so happy to be spending this hour with you all, and the hour beforehand shopping and the hour beforehand walking to the grocery store. I mean, honestly, I am very grateful that we get to kind of focus this way for a while.
Yeah, it's always good to have something to do, to know you're making a drop of difference in the world and in somebody else's life. With even if it's just soup, it means something. It means more than we think. Yeah. I'm going to pull out my immersion blender here. The beans, later on, will be, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but just pulling it out. They're going to be blended with some broth. So let's pull that out. I think I'm also going to go ahead and I'm doing my broth with the better than bouillon. So because I'm just waiting for my pot to heat up here, I'm going to go ahead and put water in. I have an 8-cup measuring cup. This recipe calls for 18 cups of broth. So I'm going to have at least some of it nice and hot when it's added to the soup. And this will be the water that I'll use when I add my better than bouillon. It seems to dissolve better when it's hot. I'm just going to stick that in the microwave for a couple minutes. If you don't have one of these larger measuring cups and you cook with us often, it's a really nice way to measure out big quantities of liquid. I bought it by mistake. You probably heard that story, but I thought I was getting a normal size measuring cup, but I use it all the time.
I love a good mistake.
Yeah. And this recipe, like pretty much all the others we make has lots of choices in terms of, the form of ingredient that you choose and the simplicity. Like I'm going with the Costco garlic jar, which I love. I go in phases. Sometimes I'll use the regular garlic, chop it up or crush it, but today it's going to be the jar garlic. And the herbs, fresh, or I know the ingredient list says a bunch of fresh parsley, half a bunch of fresh dill, and 6 tablespoons of fresh oregano chopped, and they give dried equivalents. All 3 of those can be dried or fresh, whatever you have. All right, my oil's looking pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and add the onions. These are going to cook for 5 to 7 minutes until translucent. This recipe, being lemon rice soup, it calls for arborio rice, but you can use a bunch of different rices. Is anyone using anything other than white rice today?
I am. This is Kelly. Hi. Sorry, I'm trying to get my video.
Hi, Kelly. No problem.
Hello. I am using basmati because I did not realize that I had no rice. Well, I had wild rice, but I opened it and it smelled funny, so I threw it away.
Yeah, that's the problem with wild rice, right? And those more whole grains. Yeah. Okay. I was curious to see if anyone was cooking with the wild rice or maybe even brown or something. The only adjustment would be to simmer it for a little bit longer than we're going to cook it. But
Okay.
I didn't have arborio, but I've got medium grain. I don't think that takes any different cooking time versus the arborio or short grain rice. Cool. I'm letting my onions saute, and I'm just gonna combine my warm water here from the microwave with the better than bouillon that I've already measured out. Get that going. And the trick is for me to remember that I've got only part of the liquid that the recipe calls for, since my measuring cup is an 8-cup measuring cup, and I'm adding all the better than bouillon to that. I just have to remember that I've got to add more water to get the total 18 cups. And this is a recipe that I think will want the full amount of the liquid, because the rice will absorb it once it's in the fridge or the freezer. I'm just going to whisk that in so we'll be ready. And the onions are looking pretty good. I'm going to give those a couple more minutes. there's a YouTuber whose recipes I enjoy, and one day he was saying how he has tasting spoons next to his stove, and I thought, that is such a good idea. So I just took a fun mug and I got a bunch of spoons. It's the little things, I just love having a spoon by the stove instead of walking like that whole 4 steps I have to take to my cutlery drawer. And this way, whenever I have to well, we're not at the tasting point yet, but it'll be there for that, or like scooping out anything from a jar that you need. It's always right there. So it's one of my recent little pleasures. So.
I'm going to do that.
Try it. You might
That
like
makes
it.
it seem like a party, because at any moment somebody's going to walk in and you're going to want to hand them a spoon to taste.
Right?
I love that.
Denise, who's the YouTuber?
Oh, his name is, it's Glenn and Friends, and I'm realizing I don't even know his last name, but it's under Glenn and Friends, and he's a Canadian, I think Toronto area, and I just got a kick out of him. He's very laid back. He kind of cooks like your stereotypical guy cook, where he sort of measures, but those are suggestions, but he always provides a recipe that can be followed. He does everything from meats to baked goods, and he has on Sundays what he calls the Old Cookbook Show, and he'll take recipes from the beginning of the 1900s, and there's weird recipes that will just say to bake, and they won't say the temperature, or they'll say a cupful, but it's not a cup, it's like a teacup or something, and he'll challenge himself to recreate it. Some of them are, depending on the time frame that they come from, some of them have a lot more information than others. So anyway, he's got this cute wife, Julie, and her only function is to walk in the last 2 minutes, and he says, "Hi, Jules," and she says, "Hi, friends," into the camera, and she tastes whatever he makes and pronounces her opinion. So anyway, Glenn and Friends, they're cute.
The way you describe his cooking, I think I found my cooking style. I'm like a guy cook.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
it.
proud
That's
of it,
very
but
relaxed.
I think I am.
But you get the great results. All right, so the onions are doing well. I'm going to take one of my lovely tasting spoons here, and I'm going to go even a little heavier than the tablespoon. You do what you like as far as garlic, but I'm going to give it a couple good spoonfuls here. I'm just going to cook that for just a minute before I put in the carrots and celery, and then we'll go ahead and add those. All right, and then the other veggies go in, and then that's another 5 to 7 minutes with that veggie mixture. And we're not looking to completely cook the carrots here, so don't worry about that. Just about 5 minutes. And then while those cook, if you haven't already, and you want to open up the beans that you're using, if you're using the canned, drain and rinse those. And we're going to put, let's see, all the beans and then 2 cups of broth in a bowl, and blend that with an immersion blender if you have it. And if you don't, that same mixture will go into the regular blender. So I think I'm going to do that now while my veggies cook. So if you use 2 cups of your broth for this, you'll be looking to add 16 to the rest of the soup. And I have a mixture of cannellini and white beans in here. And it doesn't really matter because they're all going to get blended in. And you want that pretty smooth, but a few chunks are fine. Kind of your preference there.
Denise, to me, this sounded like such a Greek type of recipe. I was surprised that it didn't call for more garlic.
Oh yeah, well, like I said, anybody who wants to go ahead and throw some more in there because that would be very nice.
I happen to have 2 heads of roasted garlic. You think I can throw that in, or?
Oh
should I-
yeah, roasted would be nice, I think.
Okay, I'm gonna do that. Thanks.
All right, that looks fairly smooth. Okay, and once the vegetables have gone about 5 minutes or a little bit more, we're going to take that smooth bean mixture and really everything except what are we leaving out? The spinach, not yet, the herbs, and we're holding back about a 1/4 cup of lemon juice, and everything else is going to go in. Now, I wonder about the dried herbs. I may put mine in at this point because I'm using dried. I think putting them in at the last minute, I'm not sure. I think I'd rather have mine simmer. So what do you guys think? Anyone using dried herbs? Maybe they don't need the full 25 minutes, but I think I might add them in somewhere in between now and the spinach. And they need a little time to work their magic when they're dried. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and add my broth. That's 8 cups. So I made up my better than bouillon using an 8-cup measuring cup. And I have 2 cups of liquid that went in with the beans. So that's 10, and I need another 6. And I'm just using water, but I used enough better than bouillon for the whole 18 cups, if that all makes sense. It's the only thing with the better than bouillon. It's convenient, but you have to do just a little bit of math. Everybody's busily working away without questions. I'm going to scribe that to good directions. Are you guys having a good time following the directions online this time? Not always easy to triple the recipe, but we try. I see the recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of salt, and that seems to be, my palate is pretty sensitive to salt because I try to eat largely low sodium stuff, but you know, the soup definitely needs some. And if I recall when I made it, that was a pretty good ratio for when you're using the better than bouillon. If you have some stock that's a little bit saltier or less salty, just go ahead and adjust. I almost always use freshly ground pepper when I'm cooking most things, just for family size. But in these recipes, I tend to scoop them out. So this is a bag of Penzeys ground pepper. Does anybody, for a recipe, for example, that calls for 3/4 of a teaspoon, like this one does anybody do it right from the pepper mill? Must be good exercise. Yeah, you do. That's great.
Hey Deb, while we have downtime, was there any update about the apartment setup for this week?
No, stay tuned. I'm probably very silly, but before I ground my beans, I felt like, oh my God, I'm so far behind. I'll never catch up. And now my beans are ground. I'm feeling damn good.
There you go.
Uh,
If anybody's looking for a job, once that stuff goes in, really the last thing is to chop the spinach.
So I made the poblano chicken one on my own yesterday, and I didn't
Well, how did
pay,
it turn out?
well, I didn't pay that much attention to the ratios. I had fewer poblanos and I added more beans. I think I made it a little too beany when I immersed it, but yeah, but
Yeah.
I just used a lot of extra cauliflower. It's good. I did the Instant Pot. It was good. It was easy, but I should have paid more attention to the ratios and followed it a little closer. I know, Denise, you follow directions and I do the opposite. So
Yeah.
felt
Well,
fine.
it's funny you should mention that because I actually, I had taken the recipe quantity when I went shopping. It said 4 to 5 pounds of chicken, so that's what I got. And when I was making the recipe, I thought, wow, this is just going to make a really meaty soup, and I'm sure it's delicious if that's what you want. I ended up having something that was more cauliflower and a lot less chicken than the recipe called for. So it's one of those ones that you can adjust depending on how much meat you want.
Yeah, actually, one thing that I thought was pretty nice, a lot of times when I make soups with chicken or make anything with chicken, white meat, it just is dry. I did it in the Instant Pot in big chunks, like took a boneless breast into like 2 chunks. And then I shredded it, like it said, and it's great. It was so easy, and it was really, tastes really good in the soup.
Oh, that's good. The meat was moist.
Yeah, I think that's something I should consider with my Jewish chicken soup recipes.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, I hadn't used the Instant Pot for a long time. I didn't use it for that recipe because of the quantity we were making, but it inspired me because we were talking about it to pull it out over the weekend and make a baked beans recipe. And I knew that the Instant Pot does a good job making beans directly from dry, and not having to soak overnight. But I need to find the right recipe and the right procedure, because I did find it kind of cumbersome. This recipe called for processing the beans once through the cooker with just water, if you don't soak it, and then going ahead and cooking it again with all the flavorings and seasonings. And I just found that it was like, wow, if I had just soaked them overnight and then thrown them in the crock pot, it seemed like it would have been a lot easier. But I know I'm missing something, so I'm gonna find a different recipe, I think.
Or if you opened a can, it would have been even easier.
Well, yeah, yeah. See, in my house, it's funny. It's going away, but it was that's one of those traditions in New England, and a French Canadian tradition that was like always Saturday night was beans. My mom did it for a long time, and my grandmother certainly. And yeah, you can't open the can. The guilt in opening a can. I can open cans for just about anything else, but can of baked beans for dinner, I just can't do it.
I made a mistake on that recipe last week. I didn't brown the chicken before I put it in the pot. So, and I didn't realize until the chicken was already in it. And I said, oh, well, I'm not going to fish the chicken back out and then try to grill it someplace else and then put it back in. Let's just see how it comes out. And I have to say, it came out better that way.
Yeah.
The chicken was so moist because I hadn't browned it first. In that particular, my husband actually loved that soup. I actually really liked it as well. I thought that the chicken amount was just the right amount, and that accident in cooking turned out to be like a plus.
Isn't that great? Especially when you find a shortcut.
Yeah, especially.
All right, so I didn't set my timer yet, but that's been in there for a good 5 minutes or so. So I'm gonna set that to simmer. And really, even if you're not setting a timer, what we're looking for here is the carrots to be done and the rice to be cooked. It's funny, this one doesn't look as voluminous as some of the recipes that we've tripled. Oh, we do have spinach going in. Oh, that would help if I put in the beans, don't you think? Hey, look, there's more soup.
Starting to look voluminous, huh?
Oh my gosh. And I would think if you like beans, you could very easily add a can of drained beans for a little more texture. Since I'm being a little forgetful this afternoon, I'll have to ask somebody to remind me at the end to remind everybody else to fish out the bay leaves because I don't want to forget that. I happen to have 4, and I hope to be able to find 4. Last week I was in New Jersey visiting my parents, and remembering it because I'm here and I don't have a sous chef cleaning up after me. My mom was so nice in the kitchen that I was doing the cooking, and she was clearing things away, and it was so nice. Really miss having a sous chef. Everyone should have one. I'm going to take this time while my soup is simmering to refill my oregano jar. I keep spices in jars, but I usually buy them in larger bags from KindSoups.
Pansies is my absolute favorite place.
Isn't it great?
Love that spice store.
And the people there are really knowledgeable too.
And they're nice. They're so nice.
They really are. I've been buying online from them before they opened a store in Rockville. So it was very nice to be able to go in person.
Yeah, I did too. Because my mom used to buy from them, and that's how I discovered them. And
Oh yeah,
before the Rockville store was open.
yeah. All right, quick survey. Who alphabetizes their spices so they can find them faster? Yay! I see 1, 2, only 3 of us. That's funny. Oh, 4. Okay, there's Marjorie.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
I was asking who alphabetizes their spices for easy access. Isabel too? Awesome.
God, if only. I've got the lazy Susan, and it's all like I spin it around and around and around. And then I try and organize it, but that doesn't last very long.
Yeah.
It sounds more like a roulette wheel than a lazy Susan. Where she stops, nobody knows.
Can I ask an unrelated question?
Sure.
And forgive me if you all have talked about this, because I think I wasn't here last week, but Ukraine. Is there anything in the works, Deb, to help, like any kind of outreach? Do we have any? No one's, is it still too current, too new for anything?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, people have asked me if we're going to be helping the refugees when they come over. I
Mhm.
mean, you know, yeah, I don't have a plan right now.
Yeah.
We don't have a plan right now, but the way our projects often take shape is somebody like you says, we have to do something and this is what I propose. What do you think? And then we all like add to it and finesse it and do it. So,
Okay.
so yeah, too new, but we welcome your participation and your help in creating. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I guess, part of the issue with the refugees is where Afghan was a more of a concerted effort, coordinated by us. We were actually supplying the planes for them to get out, and like that's not going on. Everybody's kind of on their own, right? They're fleeing into neighboring countries in Europe. They're not all coming here,
right,
in the same way. And so my guess is that the trickle down will be slower, because by the time they make their way to wherever they're going immediately, and then figure out what their next move is.
Right. In the meantime, and I know it doesn't help because we like making soup and doing things that we can do, personally. But in the meantime, World Central Kitchen is over there. Jose Andres.
Yeah, I heard him interviewed yesterday.
Yeah.
So fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
The great thing
I was
about
just
he's
gonna
got that
mention that,
whole
Deb.
thing. He's got his formula down now. So he really is such a mobile operation. He really can pick up and move, on a dime now, which is just so great.
Yeah.
So I so admire that man.
Yeah.
I did go ahead and put the lid on the soup. You can do it either way. Like I mentioned before, it's probably a good idea to keep a lot of the liquid in this one because of the rice. It's just after we make it and it sits in the fridge and the freezer, it's going to thicken up. So we probably want to keep the moisture in there as best we can, even though it's very easy to add water at serving time. Did anyone try some spices or herbs that are not on the recipe today? Yeah. This one's a nice classic combination. It does a very nice job of it.
How much dry dill are you putting in?
About a tablespoon is what I figured.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not big on dill as a primary flavor. So if you do happen to like it, you could probably use more.
on the tasting spoon conversation, I learned something from, I think it was from Dominique months ago, that maybe it's like just so obvious, but I had never thought of it, where you just, I guess I was always used to putting the tasting spoon in, and you don't want to then put it back in, so you go through a lot of spoons. But you just use your ladle or whatever you're stirring with, and you pour a little on your tasting spoon. So your tasting spoon doesn't go back in, but what you've been using to.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that idea.
And
I use a little glass container, like a teeny tiny soup spoon or soup bowl. Put the soup in there, and then taste it from there. But yeah, same idea.
I'm sorry.
And this soup, if the broth used was vegetable, it will be a vegan soup. But if anyone's not too concerned about keeping it vegan, I would imagine a nice shaped Parmesan on top of the serving would be yummy.
Hi all, I made the soup earlier, but I was just on the phone with my daughter's wedding planner. And so I thought I'd join in for the last few minutes. The soup tastes wonderful. It's great. I love the lemon.
Oh, good. I'm glad it came out. Good. Yeah, the lemon really comes through, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I found fresh oregano, but not fresh dill, strangely. So.
Ah, interesting.
Excuse me.
Does anyone have a lemon juicer or citrus juicer that they particularly like? Not necessarily like a machine, but just some kind of a handheld thing. I have one of these. I'll show you what I use. It's been driving me a little bit bonkers. I've got one of these guys, and it kind of works, but the juice seems to squirt out all over the place.
I have one of these, and it's similar, but this works really well. I've got one for limes also.
Okay. Oh, that's neat. So yeah, you can capture it.
Yes,
right
and
from
it
the
really does.
attachment.
It's got like the star pattern on the bottom, presses it down. I hold it over a large bowl or big measuring cup, and it works. A lot easier than squeezing by hand.
Yeah, that hurts the hands after a while.
I got this one
Isabel's got a glass.
Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, Kelly.
I got this from the grocery store very inexpensively, but what I like about it is it already goes into its own cup. There's nothing extra piece needed. You just cut it in half, and it's really easy. You can do it with your hand, but it's very simple, and it also has a measuring. The measuring on each side, so you know how much you know if you've got 2 tablespoons or whatever. So yeah,
right.
$3. It works well.
Okay, good to know. You've got a glass one there, Isabel?
Yes, mine is French, like me. So it comes all the way from France. I was raised with that, and I need that. I love that one, but I have also an electric one when I need a lot of juice.
Oh yeah.
The one you just push down and it goes.
Yeah.
But this one is very special to me, and it can break, so I'm very careful.
Oh yeah. Is it an heirloom? Did it belong to someone before you?
No, but each time I break one like that, I need to go back to Paris to buy another one.
Oh, I might be breaking mine all the time. Sorry, hon, gotta go to Paris. I broke my lemon juicer. Come here.
Touch.
My timer says a couple more minutes, but I'm sneaking a taste. I think the rice is done. It's about the carrots. Yeah. Right. I like the doneness of the rice and the carrots. So I'm going to go ahead and add spinach and the rest of the lemon juice.
There you go, Ken.
Denise, is it too late or can I remind you to take out the bay leaves?
Oh, I wish you had done that before I put the spinach in, because they're hard to find after the spinach. Thank you very much, Deb. Yeah, you'll be able to tell the spinach from the bay leaves, but if you haven't put in your spinach yet, take out the bay leaves. So you're not mistaking all the green things. That's so funny.
Have we ever talked about what bay leaves actually add to, like what kind of flavor does it add?
Yeah, I think we kind of talked about that one time, and I don't know if there was a consensus on, you know, what the flavor, if anybody really knew, if like could pick out the bay leaf flavor. I don't know. Does anybody know?
We looked it up. We did look it up. It does have some health benefits because they have antibacterial stuff, antibacterial qualities or whatever. And it also did something, you know, why do you add bay leaves? Let me look. We looked this up a couple of weeks ago. I still don't, and I don't remember from a couple of weeks ago. Okay, when the herb is infused.
Marge, I don't think that bay leaves help our memory, apparently.
No, it had to do with bitterness and in a stew, so that the stew isn't so heavy. But of course, that doesn't really apply in this case because we're not doing stew. So, but yeah, heaviness and health benefits.
So trying to extricate the bay leaves makes me think of the surgeons who count the items when they take them out of people's viscera, and they're like, and it's like, okay, I have 3 bay leaves. Where is that 4th bay leaf? I feel like, you know, I'm going to get sued for cannot find that 4th bay leaf.
Bay leaves are very important as an herb in the French cuisine, in French cooking. Yeah. And it brings a lot of flavor, and it's part of what we call bouquet garni. It's always 1 bay leaf, a sprig of parsley, and a sprig of thyme, and they are bundled together. and that constitutes the bouquet garni. If you don't have the bay leaf, the flavor are less deep. You get a lot of flavor that comes now that are brought up by the bay leaves, I think. It's very important for French people, at least.
So it complements the other flavors in the dish too.
And in Mediterranean cooking too. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I've got 3 out of 4.
I've given up. My thought, I find that when I pour them into the containers to freeze, I see them then.
Okay.
That's an easier way to do it, I think.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't go crazy about that 4th one. Wait, you'll see it.
Now it's a challenge, you see. Getting to my stubbornness.
In a minute, Vinny. In a minute. Smells good. Soup.
Good. Found it. Feel victorious.
Come over to my house, please, and look.
What's that?
I said, could you please come over to my house and go sorting through my soup?
No, but I can organize your spice drawer.
If you ever do like a silent auction, maybe we should put that down as one of the items. Come over to
Organize and alphabetize your spices. That's funny. I think somebody would want that. Well, in the time that it's taken me to find the bay leaves, the spinach is nice and wilted, and really the soup needs no further cooking. So I think I'm going to take it off so that we don't get more evaporation, and I think you'll find that the soup thickens anyway as time goes on, but it's okay. Like I said, you can adjust it when you serve it if you need to add a little bit more water. I always find it tricky to make soups with rice, because no matter what I do, it just seems to expand and soften. And I don't think there's really anything that you can do once the rice is in the liquid, except eat it right away. So again, this one can be labeled as vegan unless you've done any different kind of stock when you made it. And yeah, that's about it. How's everybody doing on their process? Anybody get to the taste part yet? Good.
I'm still looking for the 4th bay leaf. And now I'm wondering whether I put in 4 at all or whether I just put in 3. So I'll have to follow Marjorie's, hopefully when I decant it.
There you go.
Or you'll have to just like make sure that your medical malpractice is paid up.
Thank you, Deb.
I have found my first bay leaf. The sad news is I didn't have 4, I had 5, because one of mine I had like 2 halves, so I still have 4 to go. So
yeah, I always try to choose for KindSoups the biggest bay leaves I have.
That should be our selling point when we try to get new people to accept KindSoups. We only use the biggest bay leaves when we cook.
Sounds good, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's caring. All right, so at the end, we throw in the spinach, the herbs, and the lemons. And then we just turn around and start tasting it.
Yeah. And adjust anything you want to adjust. See about the salt if you want to adjust that.
Voila, number 4.
All right.
Number 2.
Such a relief.
My day is.
Well, at least I've never heard of anyone being like allergic to bay leaves. I have to say, I've been in some decent restaurants and had bay leaves in the stuff that they've served me. I want to say maybe it was Indian food. It might be optional to remove them, but we'll do it.
At least at that restaurant, it was optional.
It was.
So in the picture, they showed like slices of lime. You wouldn't suggest.
Oh, that would be nice.
I mean, it looked pretty, but you wouldn't suggest that we do anything with that for these containers, would you?
That's interesting. I wonder how they would look. I imagine they would float, so they might be kind of pretty on top. I don't know. I'd probably try it at home, freeze it, and then see what it looked like. But I don't see any reason why that would be problematic. It'd be kind of
my soup is
pretty.
Very dilly. Most of you didn't use a whole bunch of fresh dill, did you? I'm wondering if I'm happy or I'm unhappy. I think I'm just happy, just because why not?
Yeah. Yeah, if you like dill, why not? Yeah, I think the lemon slices could work. I would just say make sure there's no seeds in the slice when you put it on top, and then why not?
Okay. So the predominant flavor should be lemon, though, right?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And did most people add more salt or no?
I did the 2 teaspoons and it seemed okay. Anybody else think it needed more than that?
2 teaspoons because it seemed flat without the salt.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, good. We're coming up on 6:30. Does anybody have any last minute questions on finishing it up?
No, I'm pretty excited. Yeah. Everybody's good? Okay.
Cool. Thanks so much for coming out again this afternoon.
Thank you, Denise.
Thanks.
Yeah, Denise. It was fun.
Denise, you're dropping off soup at my house? If anyone's dropping soup at my house, okay, it needs to be